Order.
You know what I mean?
Everybody present?
Correct.
Yeah. We do have one set of additions to the agenda. When you're over there, item 4 and 5 that we'll add to the agenda. Plus, we're going to have 3 sets of minutes to approve. Okay. We will then move to public comment. Anybody here for public comment? Okay, don't all speak at once. Okay, we're good? Okay. Approved minutes from the September 22nd regular board meeting. The meeting, the special board meeting on September 23rd, and the special board meeting on October 12th. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. So we make a motion to adopt the agenda? By Keller, second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Then we're going to slide down a little further again. We'll go right back to those minutes. There's 3 of them, and one of them is just in your packet. So maybe everybody take a glance at that, and we'll entertain a motion to approve all 3.
Is there 3 of them?
And there's 2 in the packet, and then there's 1
on the agenda.
Okay, so there was 2
Okay.
special board meetings in there.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve it with one exception. On October 12th, I see that Heidi is in the present role, and she was absent that night.
I agree, that was my mistake.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes with the adjustment of taking Heidi off of the roll call of the board. A second by Lou. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, consent agenda. We have 2 items. And first one is review and consider approval of the teacher lane change request for Thayer Knowlton. And we also have number 2, review and consider approval of the following non-athletic assignments for the 2015-16 school year. Prom advisor, prom banquet, Nicole Petro. Okay. And we should be able to approve those together. Do we have a motion to approve? I have a motion by Lou, second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, we're now on business items. So a reminder to the public, we have public comment at every business item. Because we have a series of those, just raise your hand if you would like to speak up and address us at any point in time.
And if I could just mention that we do have a guest, Mr. Wilkie is coming in to go over the German trip, but he is at an event, a soccer game that is ending. So he'll be here just a little bit late. So if we can push him as far back on the agenda as we can until he comes here, that'd be great.
Okay, so item number 2 we will hold till he gets here. Okay, number 1, consider and approve to authorize the superintendent to sign facility use agreements with Region 5A and Region 3A.
If the board remembers, we've done this last year also. This just allows us to hold our playoff games. That's about it, right, Max? Without that, we wouldn't be able to have a playoff game here.
So we have a motion from Mark, second from Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Then we're going to go to number 3. Review and consider approval to accept the following donation from the Lions Club for $300 for the elementary school flag pole project.
Yeah, there's a couple things. One is the main reason that these are coming to the board is that that's one of the, I had mentioned the board is the auditors bring us things that they think we need to correct. This is one of them. So from now on, we will bring all of the donations to the board so the board is able to approve them. The other thing it does, I think it is a nice thing in order to, just one more way of recognizing people who have donated or organizations that have donated to our school district.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second it.
We have a second from Heidi. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, then we're on the addition sheet. A review and consider approval of co-op and dance between Paynesville and Belgrade, Bruton, Narosa.
I think I'm gonna ask Max to come down and just go over this again. I know that he's made the board aware that we were looking at doing this, but he'll fill it in. We had hoped that this would move a little further ahead, but we need to do it as an addition because things, I think, for those teams start, October 19th, which would be before the next board meeting, so we need to finish things up now.
I'm not sure how I emailed this out, and I think you guys have it.
Do you want me to go line by line item, or does somebody have any questions that you would like to ask? I mean, certainly I can cover anything or explain where, one of them, as you see, is the actual co-op agreement, which is separate from procedures. So for instance, if we're going to change practice times or locations or things like that, I would expect that board probably doesn't want to have to revisit a co-op agreement to do that. So that's why those are two separate items.
Max, if you would just give a quick description just for the public, the board is kind of aware of it, but just a reminder to the public on what we're doing.
Looking at co-oping our dance team, and just a reminder that one thing that will allow us to do with the limited numbers that we have dance team is now offer a jazz team and high kick team. So we would you can see probably one of the most important items in the whole co-op. The purpose for the co-op dance team are the expansion of extracurricular opportunities for girls. Participation numbers preclude each school from having its own dance team program. So we're hopeful that'll increase our opportunities. Participation.
Is the Belgrade head coach and the Paynesville head coach working together then?
Correct.
Okay.
Though kind of a discussion between the BBAD and myself was that obviously if they didn't want to go forward, we would still have to decide what we're going to do without them. But initially, you see the coaching staff, initially we would be looking at our head coach and their head coach to start with.
Okay.
All of those would be hired through the Belgrade school. So by them being the host, they would take care of all that. So at the end of the season, we would be getting a bill. I would have involvement in any of the interviewing there, or that type of process that would take place.
Do we have any preliminary numbers yet of any sort?
Well, we originally had a meeting where I think I told you 4 students signed up. We have 7 that have now expressed interest. So
Good. So any other questions?
It just would be very difficult if we tried to run our own programs just with that number of students.
at this point, this is probably not only our best option, but very only one.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second that.
The second by Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed.
I may add that next week, Monday, Belgrade has their school board meeting where they'll be voting on the same thing. So obviously it would have to be approved by their school board as well, and then it would be official. I'll just notify everybody after next Monday's meeting for Belgrade.
Okay. Number 5, review and consider approval to change 2015-16 fall athletic assignments for Zach Dingman and Thomas Pearson.
Yeah, what this is involved in is that, in the athletic committee met, we talked about the inequity with our 9th grade coaches. Our 9th grade coaches needed to put as much time in as our assistant coaches, and we're getting paid considerably less. Also, that topic came up in negotiations, so it was agreed that, and also on the recommendation of the athletic committee itself, that we would move our 9th grade coaches to the assistant coach position. The reason that I'm bringing this back before is because at the board meeting, we approved it under consent agenda that we, and those were listed as 9th grade coaches. So at that, we needed to make the change in order for them to be assistants. So what we're really doing is just modifying what we had already agreed to, and we're moving them from 9th grade coaches to assistant coaches. In the future, they'll just come to the board as assistant coaches. One of the things that we've talked about in negotiations is looking at that whole Schedule C with our athletics and really taking a look at what's there, what's not there in comparison to surrounding districts and even ourselves. So that discussion will be taking place this year.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Lou,
Second.
a second by Cheryl. Any further discussion?
I think for this one, I will abstain from voting.
Yeah, that probably is appropriate. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed. Okay, we are then on informational reports. So, Max, Maher, you are first on.
I don't know why I walked all the way back there.
That's good exercise. It shows the kids what can happen.
Yeah. Right now, in the middle of getting things finalized as far as officials and everything geared up, practice schedules, et cetera, for the winter sports are right around the corner. We're hitting the playoff season for our fall sports. You saw the work that had been done with the dance team co-op. I don't know if there's any questions for me. It's just basically right now there's not a lot of time to operate too far into the future. One thing I would give you an update on is since I did speak about the trap team shooting, I did have a pretty key conversation with the one gentleman that's very involved with trap shooting that has committed that he would help lead and help organize things to be able to work out at the range. So it looks like probably in November timeframe, sometime through there, I'll be trying to secure meetings at organizations to raise funds and awareness of what we would like to do with that program. I'll just keep you aware of that.
Max, maybe give everybody an update just on the playoffs because those are coming up.
Okay, so football starts playoffs tomorrow night at home, 7 o'clock. And volleyball won't start playoffs until October 29th, and that will be the same cross-country section meet at Mount Prairie is a couple weeks away as well. So we're really actually starting fairly early from a football standpoint just because of the way the season started. So this is not really typical for normal. So we're on a schedule where if we don't win, then we're done.
No pressure.
Anything else?
Thank you very much. Next, we have our elementary school principal, David Orling. And then number 2 we'll take before you, Lori. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. Just a couple quick updates. We are going to start scheduling our fall conferences pretty soon, next week or so. It is hard to believe it is middle of October already. Tomorrow we have an early release, and for from 1 o'clock until the end of the day, our teachers will be participating in a few different events. We purchased a new science curriculum over the summer. We've implemented it for this fall, and tomorrow we have a 2-hour webinar with National Geographic going over any questions we have and some of the online questions that have come up. And this is a curriculum that every student will have a username and password so they can access everything at home or when they're at school. They'll be able to communicate with the teachers through that. A flagpole update. As you heard before, we did get a $300 donation from the Lions Club, and we really appreciate that. The flagpole is up. The bald eagle will be mounted within the next week. And tonight, after this, I'm going to the Legion to look for hopefully another donation. So it's just been a really good process, and we look forward to getting it all finished. Any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to roll back to business item number 2 on the German trip for 2016-17.
I did give you an informational packet.
Okay. Yeah, we went through
a little bit of a process to try to figure out what we want to do for the trip. And most of the group settled on this trip here, France, Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. Just to kind of give you the rundown of the trip. It's basically a 9-day touring trip, and then we've added some days on for our homestay and home. Mr. Hewitt was kind enough to kind of review the calendar for the upcoming school year. We found that we're kind of in a predicament with where spring break lies in terms of the quarter break day. And I think normally that we're supposed to keep the trip within 6 school days. If you notice on there, it is 8 school days. And I want to give you the rationale as to why the 8 there. Part of that is mainly to keep the cost down, because if we travel on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, there's upcharges for that. I looked at trying to push that maybe into April as well. A couple problems happened there. We're in the middle of spring sports, and then we're also, the trip actually goes up another almost $200 from that price that you're seeing there, which makes it a little bit more hefty on that. I was looking at the planning piece of it, and because we have our homestay at home, if you can go back to the back of the school calendar there, the dates that I have circled would be the dates that we're missing school, other than the 27th, which is a in-service date, quarter break day actually, sorry. And keep in mind that the calendar is not set for next year.
You have not approved this yet.
Right, it hasn't been approved. We understand that, but I just asked Mr. Hood to kind of take a look and see if there would possibly be any changes in that spring break area, and he doesn't anticipate that.
I don't see any. We run into a little bit of the same problem as we ran into this year. If you look at the start of the school year, there could be a couple days that we would gain if the state would allow us to start before Labor Day. I'll probably come to the board with a couple calendars, or at least take a look at it to see if there's enough of an advantage to start those extra 2 days. But it's still a late start. Labor Day's on the 5th. You know, but although this year is a little bit nicer in that you have the weekend in there, so it only involves a couple days. But if the state allows us to do that, but even if it does, it's not going to change where our spring break is. So I don't think it really helps the situation with the trip, and because the spring break really is, you know, later in April than it typically would be. It could be moved up. Usually it's earlier in the year, but this time that's where it falls. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. So we're starting, if you look at the Thursday, that first day, that's potentially a full day of missed school or a half day, depending on, it kind of depends on when the flights are leaving. And we have to be at the airport generally 3 hours ahead of time. So we kind of plan that accordingly. So that those things aren't booked at this point in time. And then we would be done with the touring on the 24th, which puts us that day being able to go to Ulm, which is where our sister school is at. And then they would be able to stay, hopefully we'd get in there early enough in the morning that they'd be able to attend school for prior to Friday. And then the reason why I have us leaving on Mondays, Sundays tend to be kind of tough to find transportation in Europe. And so having them go on Monday, we could also end up going back to this part of the school for part of the day, and then being able to leave from the train station from there, because it's pretty much walking distance from the school there. And we've had some issues in the past sometimes of missing trains. I can remember one year where I had to rebook everybody up to last minute because the train literally came into the station and left. And so we always plan a day out before we leave at a hotels, just to make sure that we can make it back and we aren't dealing with problems. With smaller groups, because we're stuck with the train piece. If it was a larger group, then we could, get a bus, and that'd be a little bit easier to do that. But smaller groups, the train transportation tends to be a little bit more economical in that respect. But we end up going to a couple capitals here. We go to the capital of France, capital of Switzerland, capital of Liechtenstein, which we also end up going through here, even though it's not mentioned on that. And then we hit Munich, we hit some of the same things that we've done before. But there are some new things in there that I haven't been on before, so. I guess, did you have any questions? That'd be better, kind of go from there. You know, if, like, the kids are looking for it, I've got about 10 committed with this trip, if it gets approved.
So you had indicated that right now we have is it a policy or is it just a rule that we don't miss more than that, or what?
It's a guideline
Or just
that we have, that we sent back, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago when we had the discussion on how many students we used as a guideline, also to validate having the instructor out of the building for that period of time. So it's more of a guideline, it's not a policy. The other thing I would suggest is if the trip would go into April to any extent, it does then hit our MCA testing window, that we're kind of looking at that process of testing and reviewing and being more specific and diligent on how we're going to be doing that. So I know this last year we had some students miss part of the math review. Or was that 2 years ago? When did the kids go to 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
For last school year.
Yeah, so that would be one thought in this process also, is kind of if you get too far into April, it does back up into that testing window.
And Dave and I had talked about that also when we were looking at this. There's just not a really good time that works out better than what I think Davis did.
Well, I always think that any of these year trips is a great experience. I just think that, you know, sure, it's going to probably hinder another day of curriculum or whatever, but I think at the end of the day, for those students that are experiencing that, I think it's a lifetime experience. Probably more so than they probably gained in that one day class that might be missed. So I guess for me, be less if you're going to teach them all day for one day while you're on the trip.
Well, we kind of do that anyway.
No, math.
Oh, man. Well, we're in the city of Einstein as it is. And the CERN is where the atom conductor thing is also. So there are some things that we try to, if we can manage it, we do try to get that in there. But they have to do the math on the exchange rate. That's always an interesting one. So they get their math on that one.
You know, the other piece with this also is that Dave's very aware of how many days that these kids are going to be out. I mean, we truly did look for options, other options that might work to cut down those number of days. He doesn't, you know, it's tough on instructors to be out of the classroom that long too. So he pays the price also for being gone those extra days.
It's tough to be gone that time. I mean, you know, some people think I'm on vacation at that time, but I have to worry about 2 places at one time. So, it's not that I don't have fun there, but keeping in charge of those kids at that time, there's a lot of pressure on that.
I agree with you, but I think they're still learning. It's just a different, they're experiencing a different way of learning. But I think, I think we have to factor that too.
So we need to approve, and we just pay them some money down to seal the trip, is that what you're talking about?
What the company here has to have, this particular company needs set dates. And so to get this price, it would have to be by November 1st. Everybody would have to sign up before then in order to get this price. Because we are so far out, and then generally what happens is that price starts to go up by increments as we get closer to our trip. And for example, last trip we had a bunch sign up, and I think the later people that signed up, because we had when the kids were here visiting, we had a couple say, hey, we'd like to go now. And so with that happening, that ended up, they ended up paying a lot more than the ones that signed on initially.
So you need to commit with money though?
The kids would need to commit with money, the district would not. The district would be committing, saying that, yes, we can go ahead with the trip and start getting people signed up and things like that. That's the commitment that I'm hoping to get from you tonight.
Yeah, you're just approving them to go forward and do what they need to do to put the trip in place.
So do you have a motion to approve? I have a motion from Ellen to approve.
I'll second it.
Second by Heidi. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Passed.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay, then we're gonna go back to reports, and it'll be our secondary principal, Lori Flora.
Okay, well, it's good to see you, and we'll see if we can kind of move through some of these things. There's a couple changes coming down from the state, and I gave you, or there's just 3 or 4 of these, and more so that you can hopefully share. Our College in the Schools programs, there's some legislative changes going on with who can teach the College in the School program. And they are now requiring, and after getting off of the phone from our Fond du Lac representative, who's been working directly with the Higher Learning Committee, he happens to be on the committee, has said that teachers are required to either have a master's in the subject area or a master's plus 18 credits in the subject area, which is quite a bit different in a requirement. So as we looked at what we offer as our college courses, which is on this grid, I did check with our teachers and check their credentials and where would we lie. In our math department, Jake Heimerman currently is interested. He only has a few credits he would need to complete in order to make the master's plus 18, and he's interested in doing that, so I don't see any change in our math program, which is a huge positive. In our English program, which you'll see we have college honors, writing 1, writing 2, and then the college lit. Miss Davy qualifies. She has a master's in English, so we're okay within that program. Miss Canole, who currently teaches our macroeconomics, with hers, she's very close to meeting the plus 18 and does have plans already to do that. So in our social studies area, I think we will be okay. She's also interested in possibly picking up the advanced psych if that needs to be done at that time, or if we look at a different class in that social studies area. So in those areas, we are okay. Miss Utsch, with the animal science through the U of M, I have to actually go to the Higher Learning Committee with her. She has a master's in egg science education, and how they would relate that to, if they're going to relate those credits to education, or if they'll relate them and say they're in the field of egg. So that is going to be one that I'm going to have to probably look at and take, possibly there's going to be an appeal process or that type of thing. So as things kind of come down the pike, we have till the year 2017 to meet the standards. So that's kind of where we're at. So that one's kind of questionable. The Project Lead the Way program, the Principles of Biomedical Science and the PBS, the engineering and any other ones we would offer, they fall under a different categorization. Because they have an end of a course exam, which makes them similar to advanced placement, and that exam is done by the college, it's evaluated by the college, and the college does the cut score. Instructors in those areas do not have to meet the criteria set for the College in the Schools program. So in those areas, we are okay. So that's just to kind of give you, an eye on where we're sitting. It doesn't look like things will, we'll end up losing a lot of credits in our current program right now. Okay? If you have more questions as this kind of all comes to play, please let me know.
So as we move into this and Project Lead the Way takes place, do we have a distance plan between now and then and adding classes to Project Lead the Way?
Yeah, one of the requirements as far as Project Lead the Way comes in as our committee will meet, which we didn't get that in yet. But we do have to add 3 courses over a 5-year period, or look that we have a vision or a plan to do that in the different areas. And that's going to be my proposal as we talk with our committee, and then we'll come back to the board. The 2 that if you see at the bottom of this one, did I put it on here? On the bottom of this sheet is currently Mr. Rasmussen is looking at taking our PBS course and tweaking it so that we can get the 3 units that currently aren't in there to meet the biology standard for our 10th grade biology. Look at implanting that into our 10th grade biology so all 10th graders would get it, and have that option for the college credit and the experience with all those different careers involved, etc. And then looking at taking that human body systems, the physiology more, physiology, medical terminology, that program, which is their second step, putting that in place of where our advanced biology is now. So that, hoping to maybe look at doing that next year or the following year. Not nearly the expense for the setup, because we've kind of done that with having the laptops and some of that equipment. Still a little bit of an expense for the setup. The other program would be the POE, which is in that engineering series. And that one is designed towards drafting. They use CAD and something else, but it's that next step from that robotics and automation, and that moves into the drafting piece. And that would be one that I would be looking at implementing. Right now we do offer drafting. This curriculum, I think, would make that program even stronger. So here again, we wouldn't be adding a class. We would be taking a class that we currently have and greatly improving it, as well as offering the college credit in that class. Most of that program is computer-based. So again, the setup for the POE isn't nearly as much as the other programs have been. So that's kind of that long-term set out there. Then even projecting farther than that, I would like to start looking at our computer program, our computer technology curriculum. So, because that's the one place we haven't enhanced for a while, but that might be down the road. Okay? Paul came in, our resource officer, and between himself and our parking lot crew that has been walking the parking lots, turning in license plates, talking with students, the Monday and Tuesday of this week, we had 100% compliance on all the cars in the parking lot with having stickers and being parked in the right places, etc. So that was a good thing, and we'll kind of keep on that as far as just checking, etc. Homecoming went very well. We had lots of great competition, lots of different events in the school, and I really thought, led by our seniors, the kids found a great boundary between having a lot of fun and enjoying the activities, but still respecting both our community and the other people involved. So I really appreciate the way they carried out the whole week. So that was great. We did this week, we were a tour site for the Project Lead the Way State Convention. We had 15 to 20 teachers down for the afternoon and toured our 4 different classes, talked to our students, talked to our teachers. So it was a good networking experience for our teachers, and Jesse Rasmussen did attend the conference on Friday then for the different breakouts. And we also yesterday, we had 2 teachers visit us that are from Argentina. Another principal that I know who went to Argentina for 2 years. They had a transfer program. So they came up and toured our building and actually talked with Mr. Wilkie in Spanish with the class for a few minutes. And the kid said, yeah, we're gonna quiz you on how well you can, carry on a conversation. But they toured our building as well. On tomorrow, we will, kind of my last piece is, as part of our staff development tomorrow, we do have the reading specialist from the State Department Skyping with us for our staff development time from 1:30 to 3:30. He has already looked at a lot of our testing data, looked at some of the processes that we have in place, and now he's going to be meeting with our teachers, and this is one of several meetings. We'll be kind of dissecting what we're doing, looking at what our kids are getting and what maybe they're not, and hopefully he will help us look at our program so we can improve it. So, any other questions?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Community Education
Actually,
Director.
I think I did forget something because I handed it out to you. I'm sorry. I had it on the sheet. What you have in front of me is just a bit, but just so you kind of have an idea, is we are looking at the certification. I brought it up a couple of times for our land trans program. If you look at the bottom of the sheet, and there's 2 columns and it goes on to the back, those are going to be, and this is what we've rewritten our curriculum to kind of wrap around, is we are looking at offering the student certification. We can use all, we would be able to utilize all the tests or give certification for all the tests. For this year, we are focusing on curriculum side, but the kids could take any of them on the light automotive repair and the one that is right underneath that, but I have a different sheet here. Maintenance and light repair. And I should have highlighted it. Mark it. Maintenance and light repair and automotive service and technology. So we are just starting to talk with them to get students signed up. For $30, they can take any of the certifying tests in the column. So there's 2 different columns, and they can be certified, get student certifications for 2 years, which I think is a wonderful opportunity for students going into those areas. We do not need the internship for these types of certifications. So as they would kind of start to climb that ladder, that is something that they would, there's levels of those certifications. So that is, we are starting to work on that in our land trans program. Okay.
So in this column, the testing is for 2 categories.
Yep, the first column is they call them series of tests.
Yeah.
Okay, so each one of those lines is a certificate.
So,
But for $30, they can
take any of them?
Any of them.
But are we training them for this?
Our curriculum of what we look at, because we have semesters, there's 2 testing windows. So Mike, to start with, we kind of chose 2 areas to really focus the curriculum on.
To kind of get them started, get them
To
through
get
the
them
test,
started
and see if they can grow from there. Is that what the plan is?
Exactly, because then we can have kids in like more than just 1 semester of land trans and do some things. So we're just starting down
But
this path.
potentially,
Potentially,
they
yes.
could graduate, have certified themselves, and potentially get themselves a job at a dealership.
That's
Is that
our
what you're
hope.
saying?
Yep, that's potentially
Okay, and
what
that's
I'm
how it was supposed to
hoping
work.
is how it all works. And like I said, I'm just starting to work with the gentleman to get us signed up and down that path. But from my understanding, that is what it's designed to do for students, to help them kind of get that jump start.
That's what we were hoping for.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next, we have our community education director, Matt Dickhausen.
All right, good evening. With the last legislative session, there was increase in early learning scholarship money, so we had applied for an extra $10,000 for our Pathway 2 scholarships. And we recently found out that we did receive that. So 8 of our 20 preschoolers are on full scholarships. So there'd be no charge for them. Our fall community ed programs are going well, numbers are strong. Our pause daily, average daily attendance is 25 in the afternoon and 20 in the morning, and we have over 56 kids registered. So, and fitness center memberships are picking up, especially now that it's getting colder, so that helps us out a bit too. So, any questions for me?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we're on staff development, and Heidi, you're on the list.
All right, we had a meeting on October 1st, and we talked about staff recognition, the kind of doing a replacement for the LEEA.
LEA, yeah.
So we were just kind of throwing some ideas around. One idea that we thought of was putting, I don't know if you call it Teacher of the Year, but as part of the chamber, the awards.
Yeah, so I'll be contacting the chamber president to see if they'd be willing, because they do have kind of that award date, to see if they'd be willing to let us piggyback off of them and do that. So I'll be contacting them to see.
So that was pretty much the whole
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, just a way of honoring our support staff and our teachers. It replaces when we left the resource training solution, we lost that ability to do that. So.
Okay. Then number 6 would be continuing education. Calum?
We had a meeting on October 7th last week, and there's a new rule with their reflection statement. They have to include ELL in their reflection statement, which stands for English Language Learners. And in our district, we have less than 2% of ELL students. So that poses a bit of a quandary. Well, she looked into that and said all they need to do is just say that they don't have any of those students in their reflection statement. And if they do, then they just acknowledge that they have students and state that how they meet the students' needs in that reflection statement. And then I discovered that there was a dyslexia workshop. You can help me here if I'm not at the right workshop, but some people were adding reading hours.
Yeah, strategies, and it really didn't teach strategies during the workshop, so that wasn't allowed to be used as the hours for the reading piece. Could be used for other hours, but not specifically for reading, because they needed to teach strategies or learn strategies during the workshop, so they weren't allowed.
So we approved the clock hours and set dates for the next fiscal year to meet. Looks like it's December, February, April, and May if needed. And there are 13 staff renewing their licenses in 2016, and some are already ready to go. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next is food service negotiations. Cheryl.
We had our initial meeting this afternoon, and I guess it was the initial meeting. We're ongoing.
Okay, thank you. And then our administrative report from our superintendent, Dr. Hewitt.
Just a few things, update. I got an agreement from our people that were working with the solar garden. Have not had a chance to read it. It was a number of pages, so I haven't looked at it yet. So I'm hoping to be able to give the board a little bit more of an update at the next meeting on where they're at with that. I think we're in good standing. I think we did pick a company that will meet the standards, because that continues to be an issue with the size of those solar gardens. So we'll see how that shakes out. Strategic plan, we met yesterday. Those were the minutes. I thought our meeting went real well. We're working on our mission and our vision statements and our beliefs, and we'll continue to go down that process, but I did think the meeting went extremely well. The next meeting is on November 28th. MSBA conference, just a reminder, 14th and 15th. I have booked hotel rooms for you guys, so if you're not going to or something changes, I need to make a change by December 1st. All right, so just be aware. Early release day, as David had mentioned, is tomorrow, and MEA conference or workshops are on Thursday and Friday, so there's no school either one of those days. We'll be setting up a meeting for next year's calendar. Dave had, Loki had kind of talked about that, so I have at least one calendar that I think works, but I need to set up the meet and confer, so I'll do that with the meet and confer committee and the staff to get their input on it. Again, Labor Day is on September 1st, so I always like to start as early as we can, but remember how late the state decided to allow us to do it this year. I don't see any change in that for next year. Be starting negotiations with the remainder of our groups. As far as the custodians are concerned, it's still a matter of some verbiage that we're working on. I think we have pretty close to a tentative agreement. We certainly have a tentative agreement in a number of areas except for a couple things that we're working on. I hope to bring it forward today, but it just did not work out that way. So do that. World's Best Workforce Committee meeting. We're going to have a committee meeting on November 4th, so if you're on that committee, I'll be sending out an email on that. In regards to that, we also need to have a meeting that we notify the public on the World's Best Workforce and our integration plan. We're looking at doing that on our first meeting in November, so here's the dilemma. The state tells us we can't do it during a board meeting, which means that I would like to either do it before the meeting, say at 5:30 and then start the meeting, or 5:20, whatever time we think we need to present to the community that information. I'm thinking it would be more of that so that we would have the board here. We would just do the presentation on the World's Best Workforce and the integration plan. It's really an update. We're changing our World's Best Workforce plan, but it's to tell you how we did on the goals that we had set on both of those. And then we would go straight into the board meeting. The toughest piece with that is just kind of planning it so that we don't have to wait around too long. So I'd say maybe at the earliest would be 5:30. We certainly won't need half an hour, maybe even a little less than that. So we'll kind of do that. So I'll get that out.
We have a work session or a special meeting at 5:30 and then a regular board meeting at 6 o'clock.
It's not a board meeting per se. It's a community meeting. So I'll do a little bit of checking with NSBA to see if the board's here, whether I have to call it a special session on that. It's a little silly to me because why we can't just work it into a board meeting, I don't know, because it's open to the community, but that's what we're told we can't do. So I'll let you know, but it'll be that first meeting in November. So I'll send out an email letting you know how we need to do it. And it may be that they just say that, all the board should be there. I don't know, because it's a community meeting, it's not a board meeting, but the board is part of that community. So, but I'll get that figured out so that we don't break any meeting law violations. We don't want that. But just keep that in mind. Remember way back when we had talked about the E-rate and the fact that we were looking at some work in our buildings, that we could get 70% reimbursement from the federal government. Well, as it turns out, they don't believe that we can do the project between our buildings. Okay, and I'll bring this up to the technology committee, but I wanted to at least update the whole board on that. They said that that project between the buildings, the cabling project between the buildings, is not eligible. I disagree with them. There will be districts that have own the land between their two sites, and if they do, then it's okay. But because our sites aren't attached to each other, they're saying we can't do it. I just put together an appeal letter. I'm sending it out tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens from there. So just be aware. They did give us, awarded us $34,000 for the internal things. My bigger concern is that there were a number of projects we didn't do because we wanted to do the project in between. So I've asked for clarifications that if we can't do that project, if they won't let us do it, then we would have liked to have done other projects in addition, because it is good bang for the buck. If they're paying 70%, we're paying 30%. So I just have a lot of unanswered questions that I need to get in, but my timeline is tight, and tomorrow we'll go into the USAC so that we can take care of that. That's one last thing. I just have a number of policies I want to get back to and update. So that if you're on the policy committee, be aware that I'll be setting a couple dates up. We just have some more policies that we need to continue to work on. And then finally, just be aware I've talked to you about 5CAST. That is the program that right now we use for my projections for the budget. And there's another 5 site, the board members have seen that at the NSBA conference. because the 5-cast is so much more involved, it's just a much more robust program. They really are recommending that you need an advisor to kind of teach you how to use it. So that we're also going to look at doing that. It's within my budget. It's $9,000. We'll distribute that a little bit between various groups, but I'm looking at purchasing and moving forward with that. That is what I have.
I just do have one question.
Sure.
I usually have a question. On that solar garden bit.
Yes.
Okay, so we were gonna do ours, but the city was talking about doing it with Geronimo. And I have not read, but Geronimo's kind of dissipated their process. Do we still have opportunity to do it with the city, do it our own, and have a garden in Paynesville?
If the
Because their usage and our usage might be what they want.
Yeah, if Geronimo, if the city is willing to look at working out something, if the city has land, because it's, again, you still have to have the land. So if the city has the land and they wanted to do something with us, we could certainly bring that forward to Innovative, which we're working with. You know, I don't think we want to change. I still believe that Innovative is the right place. I did look at it a little bit more, and I did find out Geronimo could do something like that, but they don't show
I'm not
any of
saying to
that.
switch to Geronimo, but maybe with their change, the city has changed their plan with Geronimo. And if they have, maybe they should just join in with us, and we get a solar garden right here in this community that we can get the jobs
If
here.
the
we can have-
city had land to use, I certainly don't have any issues
So
asking
they
that
were set
question.
to buy land when he made the presentation, and there is land for sale. So I think it's all possible if we.
Well, I can send an email to the city asking them if they're interested in working with us
Yeah.
on that.
Well, maybe check with those people and see if that's still a possibility, because it came up a little bit when we had the discussion. But if we can have the solar panel here, I gotta believe that it sure wouldn't hurt the students to see how that all works. Having it very much lower.
Yeah, there's a couple ways that we can do that though, Bruce, even without the big, there are some grants from the state that you can put in smaller solar gardens. They won't produce a ton of, you're not gonna save money if that's what you're looking for, but they're low cost because the state of Minnesota, there are grants for it. And we could do something like that. One of the thoughts that we had looked at is maybe doing something right by the Reserve Center. Once that kind of all shakes out, you know, depends on, you know, we've also talked about taking down the fence because that's kind of an eyesore, it just collects things. So I think we have to look at all of those particular things. I think we're kind of stuck with Innovative right now, the group that we wanted. I don't know what the city's plan is as far as going with Geronimo or changing that. That I don't know.
I don't know, I haven't read anything about it, but I know Geronimo locally changed their program. So they're not presenting here at the moment.
So they're not.
No,
Well,
so I think most of that has changed from what I read.
I can certainly send an
But I don't
email out.
know, it just seems to me that we would still use the same company. We would just maybe have them join with us instead of the other schools, yet we could have the garden here.
Yeah, there has to be a number of different, remember, I think it was 4 or 5 different organizations, but certainly it's worth looking for. I have no issue sending out an email to
Maybe they'll
to
work
the
with
city
us.
asking to see if there's interest in it.
Mhm.
And that doesn't hurt our position whatsoever.
Any other questions? Anything? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Lou. Second. Second by Mark. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.